Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dr. Tim Nash, and I am honored to be welcoming the new students for the fall of 2020, any parents that may be with us, and a number of Northwood colleagues to our first Northwood University Summer Symposium on the Northwood Idea. Tonight's symposium is all about the Northwood Idea, an introduction to the Northwood Idea, and how the Northwood Idea has positively impacted Northwood students and alumni all around the world. I will be the host this evening. My colleague, Dr. Kristen Stahauer, our Vice President for Academics and Provost, will be the moderator. Dr. Dale Matcheck, the chair of our Economics Department, and with me, the co-author, co-editor of When We Are Free. He will be our featured speaker tonight. We will then have a brief wrap-up session and Q&A for all that are on the call. What's really important for all of our listeners is that this symposium is designed to get you involved more with Northwood University than you already are. Over the 3 sessions, next week we will have a session on the context of the Northwood Idea in today's current society. And in that seminar, you will meet our undergraduate academic dean, Dr. Patty Tim. Dr. Stahauer will be our featured speaker, and we will have the same wrap-up and Q&A session. And then in our 3rd session, you will have Chris Deming, who is our associate alumni director, as the moderator. We have a series of speakers, one of our top business law professors, Dr. Delois Liepart, our Dean of Students, Andy Kripe, and wrapping up our cleanup speaker for the event will be our president, Dr. Kent McDonald. And so what we hope to achieve is 2 things. One, that you have a better understanding about what Northwood's all about and our philosophy, the Northwood Idea, and that it becomes the point of reference that has made so many of our alumni successful. And then on top of that, we hope to have a program that will introduce you to a lot of key players, so both our students and our parents know the individuals that they can talk to if they have questions regarding the process associated with earning a degree at Northwood University, both inside and outside of the classroom. To me, what's important as we begin this symposium is that the Northwood Idea had just a tremendous impact on my life. The Northwood Idea is something that I became exposed to more than 40 years ago when I was a student at Northwood University. And what was really important to me about the Northwood Idea is that it literally was a fundamental point of reference. It's something that gave me an anchor as it related to life. The Northwood Idea really honed in on the fact that as individuals, we all had the ability to accomplish great things. That literally there were no limits in terms of the opportunities that human beings had with their lives. And so when you look at the Northwood Idea, the thing that's important is that you can achieve great things is really the cornerstone of the Northwood Idea. The fundamental point of reference or premise that you base your life on is that individuals can and do accomplish great things if they take responsibility for their actions, if they look at things and determine that as an individual, they can look to a situation and take responsibility for the success of that decision or the failure of that decision, that they learn from the decision and they go on and make certain that they become a better human being. It's a simple philosophy It's a powerful philosophy. As human beings look at that philosophy, what they really see is that they are successful relative to what they want to achieve. And as I look at the Northwood Idea, to me, I think about the fact that when I studied at Northwood, I met literally people from all 50 states. I met my wife, who came from New York State, at Northwood. I studied with students from many, many countries. As an individual that's now been with the university for more than 40 years, we've had students study at Northwood from well over 120 countries from around the world. So the Northwood Idea is this philosophy that says that individuals can improve. Individuals can accomplish great things. That when you're looking at business, the thing that's most important is that a business based on the Northwood Idea understands that that business must satisfy customers. That if you satisfy customers, you will be successful if you do it in a profitable way. So you must satisfy the owners of the business. And as you look to the future, the thing that's important is that it's our differences that make us interesting and make us useful to each other, whether it be the differentiation that we have for our company, the fact that we start a business and we help differentiate that business so that it's successful. We give customers a reason to come to our business. Or if we work for an organization, we're not the entrepreneur, we're an intrapreneur. We work within a successful company. How do we help differentiate that company and yourself as an individual to be successful? How is your business successful in that regard? And as we go through the history of the Northwood Idea, it's important to note that you look at it and you think about the fact that we at Northwood have had just an inordinate number of highly successful alumni. And when you think about those alumni, a number of them I've had the honor of meeting over the years. I've come to know and to admire so many of our alumni that have been successful. And in terms of the Northwood Idea, it's interesting that I think of a young man named John Hantz who came to Northwood as a student more than 30 years ago. And he literally today owns one of the most successful companies in Michigan. He left a group vice president's job at American Express and started the Hantz Group. And today the Hantz Group has over $5 billion in assets under management, has a bank, and is, again, one of Michigan's most successful companies. Or as you go through Detroit Metro Airport, you may not know it, but all the tile that you see in all the new terminals at Detroit Metropolitan Airport were put in there by Artesian Tile Incorporated, which is run by a Northwood alum, Jennifer Panning. And just this spring, her daughter, Morgan, graduated from Northwood. And so as you look at it, you see that Northwood alumni are applying the Northwood Idea and making themselves and their businesses all the more successful by looking at the kinds of things you're going to see Dr. Matcheck talk about in a few minutes. And what's interesting is that in closing, as an introduction, Jim Stamas ran a very successful business here in Midland and then decided that he needed to give back. And so in giving back to the community, he decided that he wanted to make a difference in the political structure in Michigan. And he became the House floor majority leader, and today is a senator in the Michigan State Senate. And so Northwood alums are making a difference in business and outside of business. and it's all attributed to the Northwood Idea. And with that in mind, I'd like to turn the program over to my good friend and colleague, Dr. Kristen Stahauer.
Thank you, Dr. Nash, and it's my pleasure to add my welcoming words to this symposium, and we are so pleased for you to join us this evening, but we're even more anxiously awaiting your arrival on campus. And so thanks for joining us tonight, and we hope that you'll be able to join us for the next 2 sessions. We know that we have some parents as well as students, and we're here for you. We also, I'd just like to point out that we have a Q&A at the end, and we'll be taking those in the Q&A. You'll see the icon on the screen, and if you could just enter your questions there, we'll work to get them to Dr. Matcheck and or whoever else might be an appropriate person to answer whatever questions you have. And this is just a taste of your academic experience at Northwood University, and we can't wait for you to get your journey underway to become one of the future leaders of a global free enterprise society, which is our philosophy and our mission. And this is really, these are the fundamentals that we're going to be talking about tonight. And I can't think of a better person than the incredible Professor Matcheck to help bring these ideas alive and share the relevance of them. And I'd like to just share a bit about his impressive bio. He's, as Dr. Nash said, Dr. Matcheck is professor and chair of the economics department at Northwood University. He earned his undergraduate degree in economics from the University of Michigan, where he graduated with distinction, and later he earned his PhD in economics from Cornell University. Dr. Matcheck is the academic director of our Freedom Seminar, and it's an annual symposium where we bring some of the world's experts on ethical, economic, and public policy and the free enterprise system. And in fact, this past spring, it focused on the impact of the COVID pandemic on the free enterprise system, and students are able to participate in that symposium. You get to rub elbows, whether it's virtually in today's environment or in person under normal circumstances, with global experts on these topics, and it's something that you can earn credit for as well. And so a lot of students take the opportunity to earn some course credits as well as have just an amazing experience with world experts. In 2019 and 2020, back to back, mind you, Dr. Matcheck was the recipient of the Samuel R. Murata Faculty Ethics Award. And at Northwood University, ethics is a very important aspect of the education. It's something we require of every student. And to receive the Faculty Ethics Award is quite a distinction because our graduating students vote on the professor who most influenced our students in their moral and ethical development and their ability to be ethical leaders, because we know that to truly be a successful business leader, you have to be an ethical business leader. Prior to joining Northwood University, Dr. Matcheck was assistant professor at the University of Michigan Flint. And as Dr. Nash mentioned, he's co-author and editor of When We Are Free. And this is an anthology, and it's something that you'll have with you throughout your entire Northwood journey. And it's something that has writings and essays about the Northwood Idea and the free enterprise system. And it's just full of information and inspiration that you'll find valuable not only during your time at Northwood, but beyond. And then Dr. Matcheck is also a member of the Mackinac Center for Public Policy Studies Board of Scholars, and he's a regular participant in educational seminars for the Institute of Humane Studies and the Foundation of Economic Education. He's a sought-after speaker, and we're so pleased that he will be speaking tonight. So it's my pleasure to introduce to you Dr. Dale Matcheck.
Well, thank you, Kristen, for that kind introduction. I truly appreciate that. And welcome, Northwood class of 2024 and others who support them in their project. I really appreciate this opportunity to welcome you to the university. These are unusual circumstances, but I think it will be a great experience for you, and I'm excited for you. I've been asked here to speak about the Northwood Idea, our guiding philosophy. And before I talk about the content of the idea, I thought I'd first speak briefly about what we mean by a philosophy and what the advantages are of having a philosophy. A philosophy is somewhat distinctive. Most schools don't have one, at least they haven't articulated a philosophy. And when I ask students at Northwood, well, have you heard of the Northwood Idea? Do you have some idea what it is? Many students will respond to me by reciting our mission statement. They can tell us our mission statement. But every college has a mission statement. Very few colleges have a philosophy, an institutional set of beliefs and values which guides everything and influences everything else at the university. It comes prior to the mission statement. In my view, it's more important than the mission statement. And in order to reinforce this, I want to play for you a quick video now, one of my favorite TV commercials. As you watch it, I want you to imagine how it would feel to be this guy. Go ahead and play the video for me, please.
Genesee, brewed the same traditional way for over 100 years. It's not just a beer, it's a Jenny.
Now, I hope you see the humor in the video, and don't get the wrong idea. I'm not trying to suggest that beer should be an important part of your personal philosophy. What I am trying to emphasize here through this quick illustration is it's not enough to be good at your job. It's not enough to be a highly skilled, high-achieving person, because that guy was all those things. He was highly skilled. He put a lot of planning, he put a lot of effort into what he was doing. But at the end of the day, what he was doing was blowing up the wrong building. And in a way, this is the mistake that happens when you don't have a clearly articulated set of core values and beliefs that help you choose the right goals, or perhaps choose the right approach or methods for achieving those goals. We spend so much time trying to do things, not enough time worrying about whether they're worth doing. And that's what a philosophy does for you. Having that personal philosophy is a huge advantage for you as you pursue your success, so that you don't end up blowing up the wrong building. I'm here to talk not about your personal philosophy, but about Northwood's philosophy. But Northwood's philosophy, I think, begins as a personal philosophy. It begins as a personal philosophy because it expresses the core values of two individuals, the founders of our university, Gary Stauffer and Arthur Turner. And they were very entrepreneurial in their own right, and their core beliefs reflect that. Our core beliefs are on our website. There's a lot of information about our philosophy and our beliefs, and on that website, I urge you to visit it. But let me just read for you what our core beliefs are from the website. We believe in the advantages of an entrepreneurial free enterprise society. We believe in individual responsibility and individual freedom. We believe in functioning from a foundation of ethics and integrity. We believe in promoting and leveraging the global, diverse, multicultural nature of enterprise. So these are some of our foundational beliefs, and we put them right out there. And it's not just for us some kind of window dressing. It really affects the way we approach our curriculum and its design. It affects the way we treat our students, and it affects the way we our roles and responsibilities as faculty. It permeates the institution, and that, I believe, is really unique to Northwood. As Dr. Stehauer indicated, I have taught at other places, and I'm very pleased to be at Northwood University now. I'm very excited about what Northwood University delivers, and I believe a large part of that is because of our philosophy. I was excited to see the Harvard Business Review kind of giving us an indirect endorsement a few years ago. They wrote an article called How Business Schools Lost Their Way. And in that article, I have to read from it here. Forgive me for the delay there. In the article, here's what they have to say about business education. Success requires much more than technical training. It requires an education in moral reasoning, which must include history, philosophy, literature, theology, and logic. Now, if you don't know, the Harvard Business Review is one of the top places to collect valuable articles about business and strategy anywhere in the world. And when an article criticizes business schools for failing to provide that philosophical component as part of their business education, and if it says furthermore that this is the reason for many of the high profile, it is the most important reason, most common reason for some of the high profile failures in business in recent years, then you have to sit up and take notice. But when I read this, I said, no, that's not Northwood University. That's where I used to, that describes where I used to teach. That describes perhaps where I studied, but it doesn't describe us here at Northwood. And the credit for that goes in large part to our founders. I said, Gary Stauffer, Arthur Turner, who in their 20s, not much older than most of you, in their 20s, got the idea that this is the way that business education ought to be done. And since they saw that nobody was doing it, they sought to create a private and independent business school where the next generation of business leaders would learn not only the skills required to be successful, but the philosophy, the core beliefs, the values of successful people, the ethical foundation that they're going to need for authentic success. And they succeeded. In my opinion, they succeeded. They started with a $60,000 loan from, I believe it was from Arthur Turner's mother-in-law, and that provided the funding. They used it to obtain a small, actually a large mansion in Alma, Michigan. At that mansion, they entertained the first group of Northwood students. There were less than 100 students at that time, but their idea went on. And today we have, I believe, over 60,000 alumni who have been educated at our main campus here in Midland. We've also had satellite campuses in other states and other learning centers around the country and around the world. We have many international partnerships. We have a global presence now. So the Northwood Idea, which started rather modestly in that old house in Alma, Michigan, has become, I think, a globally prestigious institution. So what was it about Art Turner and Gary Stauffer? What were their core beliefs? Well, I've shared, I think, some of them with you. Their core beliefs were informed by their entrepreneurial experience, by their optimism, by their strong moral and ethical foundation. And I think that is what enabled them to be successful in carrying out their own entrepreneurial dreams and enabling others to do the same. So we were started relatively recently. I say recently, you weren't alive, most of you, but 1959, the first year we opened our doors, is relatively recent by the standards of institutions in higher education. And you might say then that the Northwood Idea, our philosophy, is relatively new, but that would be a mistake. In fact, these core values, these beliefs have a very old pedigree. You can find evidence for these beliefs way back in classical ancient philosophy, but they really, many of you will recognize them as being common in the American founding. The idea that a society should be organized around the rights of each individual, and that we should have equality and rule of law, and that the role of government in our society should be relatively limited, that the progress should come and will come from the minds of each individual member of our society. And these beliefs, these ideas are old, and some people might say even old-fashioned. Certainly, there were some reasons to doubt the validity of these ideas in 1959. If you know your history, you know that this was the early days of the space race, this competition between the USSR and the United States to put the first man on the moon. And in 1959, the Soviets were winning. And as a matter of fact, many people looked to the Soviet Union as the way of the future. They looked to their command economy, their top-down approach to mobilizing resources and promoting progress, and they set a goal, they get it done, they do what it takes. This is the future. As a matter of fact, the first econ book I ever studied, freshman year in college, 1980, was written by Paul Samuelson, a Nobel Prize winning economist from Harvard University, and the best-selling economics textbook ever written, still, I believe. In my textbook, it predicted that the Soviet Union would overtake the US by the end of the decade to be the world's most prosperous economy, if you can believe that. Nowadays, a claim like that appears to be ridiculous because within 10 years, the Soviet Union, their economy had imploded, and in fact, around the world, economies like theirs had imploded and ceased to be. But 1959, the issue was still very much in doubt. And Turner and Stauffer came very much down on the side of free enterprise. And they identified the entrepreneur as the source of economic progress, both in the past and continuing into the future. And so they set about educating the next generation of entrepreneurs. So when it comes to educating entrepreneurs, I want to bring out an important aspect of the Northwood idea that I think you should start thinking about from the beginning. I know that many people think that if you major in business, you're interested in money and you're motivated by money. If I were to say to a typical person I meet on the street, you know, the social worker is motivated to help others and the business person is motivated to help themselves, I don't think I would get too much disagreement. Intuition kind of confirms that idea, that business people, for lack of a nicer word, let's call them greedy. But as entrepreneurs themselves, and through their frequent contact with successful entrepreneurs around the country, they know that does not describe the motives of entrepreneurs. And they wanted to know that the secret of success is not getting rich. I mean, that's not going to keep you going. It's not going to allow you to pay the heavy price that a successful entrepreneur pays in terms of, personal sacrifice and family time and hard work and risk. You need something stronger in terms of motivation. And so for them, they emphasized the idea that business is a calling. It's a vocation. So what do we mean by that? Well, a vocation has two elements to it. There's the talent of the individual, their interests, what they're excited about, what they're good at. But there's also one more thing necessary to make that a vocation. There's the need in their community. And when you've got that alignment between your interest and your skills and the needs of your community, then you have the basis of a true vocation. And that's the way you need to pursue your career in business. There's been some research done on this recently, and looking at motivation and long-term success. And your attitude towards your work is a great predictor of your long-term success, but not only your success, but also your happiness and satisfaction in your career. And who doesn't want that? And what the research tells us is that people who take the attitude that my career is a vocation, that I am meeting important needs using talents that I possess, that's the sweet spot for finding happiness and satisfaction and success at work. Orville Watts was one of our early faculty members. He was my predecessor as the chair of the econ department. And he put it this way, in an essay he wrote about the Northwood Idea. I can't express it better myself, so I'm just going to quote him for you. He says, "The most distinctive feature of the Northwood Idea is the view that our graduates should look on business not merely as an easier way to attain ease and affluence, but also as an opportunity for utilizing their highest human qualities and attaining lasting satisfaction in a life well spent." So this is the best reason you could possibly have for taking on the burden that you're about to take on as a college student, for all the all-nighters you're going to be pulling, for all the hard work you're going to be putting in, for all the stress you're going to be subjected to. If you understand as a human being that you're not going to be satisfied just to own things that are valuable, that ultimately you want to be somebody of value, that you want to leave a legacy. When you understand that, then you will want to challenge yourself. You will want to develop those skills. You won't, like some people say, necessarily love what you do and the money will follow. I think a lot of what you do, you won't love at all. A lot of what you do is going to be, frankly, really hard work, and it's going to be stuff that most people aren't willing to do. But if you love what you accomplish through your calling, through your vocation, if you love what it does to you as a person, then you will be success. I want to look at this idea of vocation from another perspective. So far, I've been emphasizing the way that this philosophy and this attitude shapes your life and your success. But let's not forget how people engaged in this vocation affect the well-being of others in their community. And this is where I think that business is perhaps underappreciated. So think about the world we live in now compared to the world that people inhabited 100 years ago or even 50 years ago. In my lifetime, just since after I was born, we've made more progress around the world than at any other time in human history. And when you think about what we've accomplished, let me just give you a short list. Today, no matter where a child is born, the odds that that child will survive to adulthood are higher than they've ever been before. The odds that that person will live to travel, to be educated, to have a significant amount of leisure time, all of those are higher than ever before. And how did this happen? And how does this continue to happen? I'll give you a clue. It's not because, there's somebody with a vocation like a social worker that, I'm not downgrading what they do. What I'm suggesting is that the key to the kind of progress that we've made is the vocation of entrepreneurship and those business people that support the dreams of entrepreneurs through their role in the business enterprise. So we should thank the anonymous entrepreneurs who are responsible for this great progress. We enjoy the benefits they've provided every day. We have to thank them because they accept risks that most of us wouldn't take. They have the ability to organize resources and direct them and to make them more productive. They act on opportunities that perhaps only they can see or are aware of. They develop new ways of doing things, new techniques, new products. They provide opportunities for the vast majority of us, which would by far prefer a steady paycheck and a stable workload, rather than what the entrepreneurs take on, the ups and downs and the risks and the burdens of unpredictable workloads. Thank God we have people who are willing to fulfill that role in our society. We owe a great debt to them. Now, I want to share a story with you. If you'll bear with me, it's going to take a little bit of time, but I think it's an incredibly significant story that very few people know about. It's a story that I think better than most explains what has happened to create this progress in my lifetime. And it takes place among a small group of ordinary people in a small village in China that nobody's ever heard of. But what happened in this small village brought millions of people out of poverty, changed the course of world history. I had the privilege of teaching in China this past January, and I told this story to my students, and I didn't know what to expect, but I was surprised to learn that none of them were familiar with this story. It's the story of their own country's history. But I'm going to tell it to you now, and I hope you're going to share it with other people. In the village of Zhaogong, back in 1978. Now, this is after decades of communist control. And I'm not criticizing the aims of the communists. They wanted development. They wanted to end poverty, and they wanted to do it quickly. And so in order to do that, they had taken control of the economy's resources. They had basically eliminated the role of entrepreneurship. They had made profit-seeking more or less a crime against the state. And that's the way it was. So these farmers all worked the same fields, and they shared equally in the production of those fields. They went to work when the whistle blew. They went home when the whistle blew. It was highly organized, but it was also very unproductive. So unproductive, in fact, that starvation was a common thing, and these people were often forced to send their children to other villages begging for food. And often what they'd find is other villages were in the same boat. And some of these parents were desperate. They wanted what everybody wants for their family, a little bit of economic security, the ability to create a better life for their children. And they came up with a risky proposal. They arranged a secret meeting in one of their homes. They arranged, because they know they might have been observed, to enter the home at times staggered throughout the day. If they came there all at once, they might get noticed. And in that meeting, they brainstormed, what can we do to increase productivity? And one person at great personal risk suggested that they go back to private property. They didn't call it private property. They just said, let's divide the land. We'll each work our own plot. We'll give what the government plans call for us to give to the government. But if there's anything left over, we are going to keep that for our own family. This doesn't seem like a radical proposal to you or me, but it was very dangerous. They each swore an oath to each other, that if they are arrested, disappear, that the others will take on the burden and responsibility of caring for their children. And this was a real possibility. But they did try it because they didn't see much alternative. In any case, I don't want to make this story longer than it needs to be. The results were immediate. The results were dramatic. The harvest the following year was 5 large as a normal year. Now, I don't know whether there's such a thing as being too successful, but this might have been too successful because you can't perform at that level and not attract attention. And some of these farmers were brought in by local government party officials, and they, under pressure, confessed to what they had done. Yes, I have appropriated state property for my own use. Yes, I have sought profits for the benefit of myself and my family. Yes, I've done these things. But instead of sending them to a re-education camp, they might have done in the past, these officials did an interesting thing. They said, well, fact is they got 5 times as much food as anybody else, or as what they usually get. Before we condemn this idea, let's pass it on to the next level. And it went up the chain of command until it got to the very top of the Communist Party leadership. And the person in charge of the party at that time, Deng Xiaoping, was very pragmatic in his approach to socialism. He said, well, maybe we can keep socialist aims, but we can use better methods. And what were his methods? Free enterprise, profit-seeking entrepreneurship, and starting with small steps, allowing people to start a small business with only 4 employees. They gradually expanded the role of enterprise in the Chinese economy, and the takeoff in China was just what happened in Xiaogang, but scaled up, right? China became the world's fastest growing economy. And for the past 2 decades, no country in history has grown as much as China has grown. And as a result, poverty rates in China have plummeted. This is I'm not suggesting that any system is perfect, but I'm suggesting that without the role of the entrepreneur, without the legitimacy and the cultural support for profit seeking as a vocation, without a way of leveraging a person's concern for themselves and their family into a way to make them more useful, more productive to their communities, without those things, China today is still mired in poverty. Now, way back in 1959, when Northwood University started, this is what we taught. This is what we believed. And this is what we taught to generations of Northwood alumni. And I think we've done a very good thing. And the success of our alumni are good testimony to the fact that this philosophy works to their advantage. I don't want to indicate that any philosophy is to your advantage. A good philosophy, one that is aligned with the way the world really works, that is a huge advantage for you. And the Northwood philosophy works because it's aligned with certain facts about human nature. Take this emphasis we have on individual freedom and responsibility. The human being, as an essential part of its nature, whether you're in China, whether you're here in the United States, whether you're in Argentina, we're all humans, so we've all got this. Human being chooses in a way that no other creature chooses. In that moment between the stimulus and your response to it, there is that great gift of the human intellect which allows us to reflect, to consider our options. Think about things that have never existed before as a possible response and to make them happen. Our intellect allows us take the dissatisfaction that we feel in the moment and connect it backward through time to the choices that we have made in our past. And we can see if we're dissatisfied now, there's actually a reason for that. And we have responsibility for it because there are certain things we could have done differently. And we learn from those mistakes. Furthermore, we can take that wonderful intellect and project into the future. And we can see that in the future, we may also experience a great deal of dissatisfaction, alternatively, a great deal of satisfaction. And that will be the result of the decisions I'm making at this moment and will be making in my future. This ability to connect our past to our present and our present to our future means that we never leave the world as we found it. Now, because you have this power, I call it a superpower, choose, to consider, to deliberate. That is the essence of freedom. And because of that, you are responsible for your decisions in a way that no other creature can claim to be responsible. You know, I have this cat, which is the monster of my backyard. It kills for fun. But there's no moral accountability there. There's no response. It's responding to the stimulus in the way it's commanded to by its genes. If I were to do something like that, I'd have a moral responsibility because of my nature. The Northwood Philosophy, the belief in individual responsibility and freedom, and the right of any individual to exercise that freedom of choice, to develop their capacities, to learn from their mistakes. Yes, even the freedom to make mistakes is valued in the Northwood Idea because it's the way we learn, it's the way we develop, it's the way we get stronger. So, I would argue the Northwood Idea has served us well because the Northwood Idea aligns with the way things really are. I think that is all I have to say about our philosophy at this time. And I thank you for your attention. Now I will turn the program over to our moderator, who I believe will take your questions if you have any. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Matcheck. And I think we'll ask Dr. Nash to say a few words, and then we'll go to your questions. We'll keep Dr. Nash's comments brief, so we'll have time for your questions. So, Dr. Nash.
Thank you, Kristen. Ladies and gentlemen, in terms of what Dr. Matcheck noted, what I think is I can summarize things tonight with is to say that I've held many positions at Northwood. And in the twilight of my career, in which I have the honor of running the McNair Center for the Advancement of Free Enterprise and Entrepreneurship. And the center was started by a large gift from Bob and Janice McNair. Now, the name McNair may ring a bell because Bob is also the person that brought football back to Houston, Texas. And Bob is a person that came from very humble beginnings to become a billionaire. And not too long ago, I was on the Frank Beckman show with Bob, and Bob made the comment that he thought that the profit and loss system was the greatest system in the world because it teaches businesses to satisfy customers and to do it successfully. And then Frank Beckman asked him, he said, Bob, what is the greatest gift you've received or that you've ever given a human being? And he said, without any hesitation, he said, Mr. Beckman, the greatest gift one person can give another is a job, because a job gives a person dignity. It gives a person the ability to start a family, to help grow a community, to make the world locally statewide, nationally, internationally, a better place. And at the cornerstone of everything that we have as a country, the United States exists because we create more high-paying jobs, more satisfied human beings in the sense of dollar income and psychic income than any other country in the world. So I hope this has been a good teaser for you on the Northwood Idea. And any of you that would like to get involved in doing a little research, students, or writing, please come and see me at the McNair Center when you get on campus. Dr. Stahauer, over to you.
All right. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Dr. Nash. So please use the Q&A area for questions you might have for Dr. Matcheck. And we have one to start you off with, and perhaps you could speak to some of the main takeaways in the Freedom Seminar this year that focused on the impact of COVID and the free enterprise system. That's a relevant topic to us today. Dale, if you could.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm reading in the question and answer thing about the welcome weekend. That's the question I'm looking at right now.
Right, and we do have a question about welcome weekend, and we'll get to that after this. But if you could speak to some of the main takeaways from our international experts on the COVID impact on our economy.
Oh, on the economy, sure. Well, look, this has been a disaster. As far as I can tell, things are still pretty rough in terms of global trade. In fact, the widespread support for global trade that has been a hallmark of the post-war era, some of that's been eroding now as we realize the vulnerability of supply chains to things like this. So I think people are rearranging their supply chains to make them more stable now, and I do think that's going to have potentially not only a temporary but maybe a permanent impact on our trade. Does that address the question?
Yes, it sure does. Yes, thank you, Dale. There are other questions about the Northwood Idea, and if I could also we do have one question in the Q&A area, and it has to do with welcome weekend. And the Dean of Students, Andy Kripe, will be on the third panel. He sent out the move-in days and times out yesterday, so please check your email for that. And the planned move-in day for freshmen is the 21st, Friday the 21st. And we'll hand out the welcome weekend schedule when you arrive. And parents, you'll move your students in, and then you'll leave shortly after you're done with that. And the programming for students will begin on Saturday and continue through Sunday. We have an action-packed weekend for you. We're fitting a lot in because we didn't hold the on-campus orientations, so we're going to be making up for lost time. So get ready. It'll be an action-packed weekend. We also, in the chat area, had a question about career services and career advancement, and I'm happy to share that we have you focus on what your career will be very early in your time with us. So even in your foundations class, which is a required class that you take in your first semester, you'll meet our career advancement people. You'll do the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator, which is a test that really helps you understand your own orientations better for what kinds of professions would be the best for you. So even if you're studying accounting, there are so many different options in the world of accounting or management or marketing, and we help you focus in on things. And then we encourage you to try internships, try your profession through internships and get experience. We know that our students who do internships, and we encourage them to do as many as possible every summer, and maybe even during some of the breaks you can do internships. But if you do them, very often our graduates have multiple job offers from their internship employers and others seeking them. So it's a very comprehensive, we call it career advancement because it's more than just services. We really help you advance your career and your profession. So it's it's well beyond getting a job, but it's really about preparing you for a wonderful and successful career path. We had a question too about getting involved with student organizations. And we have an annual activities fair that happens early in fall semester. And that's a chance to, the organizations will, and we probably will do it outside this year. That's still in the planning phases to make sure that we're distancing appropriately, but you'll have a chance to talk with students in the different RSOs, as we call them, the registered student organizations. And you can learn about the whole array of options that we have for you. And something that's great about Northwood, and it ties to what Dr. Matcheck was saying about individual freedom and personal responsibility. We make it very easy for you to start your own registered student organization as well. So there was a fly fishing club that was started a few years ago because some students had a common interest and started their own RSO, registered student organization, about that. So a lot of opportunities there. I'm checking the Q&A. I'm not seeing anything else right now. We're getting close to the top of the hour. Let's see. How will COVID affect numerous clubs? So really, COVID is affecting our operations in so many different ways. But the nice thing about Northwood is we really have the agility and the innovation as a university to be able to, and the size, to be able to rearrange things so we're able to conduct our business and help you achieve your education in as normal a way as possible. A variety of ways, using technology for meetings is one option, but also meeting in an appropriately socially distanced space is what we're anticipating for the different clubs. Not seeing any more questions. We really do hope that you'll join us next week and the following at the same time. And then at the end, we will make these available, these recordings available, so you have a chance to view them and see the ones that maybe you're not able to attend in real time. And I see one more question about class delivery. I'd be happy to answer that. So please plan on next week. We're going to talk about different inflection points in history, and that will focus on my own scholarly research that had to do with the end of the Cold War. Dr. Matcheck was talking about the Cold War and the Cold War bipolar world, and then how relevant that is for the times that we're in right now, especially the impact of visionary leadership on changing the course of history. So we'll focus on that, and that ties back to the Northwood Idea. So we have a great question here about, will we have in-person classes or will they be online? We are, so the semester is, we planned the start, and we have equipped our classrooms with the appropriate spacing and personal protective equipment and cleaning and sanitizing protocols. And so and we've moved them into spaces so we will be able to have the social distancing that is required for your safety. And the classes will be in a combination. So you can go to the classroom, and if a student has concerns, they can connect to that same classroom at that same time via technology. So we're calling that real-time online. So you have that option, that flexibility, because we don't know what is going to happen. And for example, if it's actually going to be a good thing, even if somebody gets sick and not even with COVID, they could attend a class that they might not normally be able to attend. But that means that you can go in the classroom, or you can connect via technology, because we're going to be streaming the classes via the web. So that's one thing. Let's see I hope that answers your question there. And oh gosh, this is one I've got a couple for you, Dr. Matcheck, and we know that it's 8 o'clock, the top of the hour, so we know some of you may need to drop off, but we'll take these questions for those who can stay. But will the negative effects of COVID-19 and the shutdown on the economy affect us as future entrepreneurs after we graduate? You're muted, I think. Dale?
I like the question. Look, the Great Depression was a terrible time, but do you realize the rate of business startups during the Great Depression was one of the highest in U.S. history? And that was unfortunately motivated to a large extent by necessity. Crisis, like the current one, paradoxically tends to create opportunity. And so we're counting on, entrepreneurs are problem solvers, so we've got problems. And if you've got solutions, then yes, there's going to be opportunities for entrepreneurship when you graduate. And I expect many successful businesses to begin in the next several years, even as we speak.
Okay, we have another one. They're asking for some prognostication from you. Do you think the real estate market will take a hit in the next couple of months to a year or two?
I don't follow the real estate market in particular. I kind of hesitate to, especially if you're going to be using my answer to this question to make any rash decisions. So I will say this. Right now, the uncertainty is biological as much as it is economic. And at the moment, one of the clear trends that might continue after we've solved the virus problem is people working from home. I expect it's going to change the real estate market, where people choose to live and whether or not they'll tolerate long commutes for the privilege of living in, densely populated areas. So don't take this for anything, but my instincts would tell me that there are some parts of the country with high quality of life where demand will go up, and those will be strong markets. And I think perhaps demand in other areas will fall. So how's that for an economics answer?
On the one hand and on the other hand.
Right.
Thank you, Dale. We had another question about the startup of the semester, and it was from a student who will be commuting. And when will they receive the schedule for Welcome Weekend, and when should you be on campus for Welcome Weekend? Please block out Saturday and Sunday for Welcome Weekend, and we'll be emailing that to you. So please check your Northwood email. And with that, we'll wrap this evening's program. Thank you so much for joining us. Like we said, we're anxious to welcome you to campus, and we hope you'll join us in the next 2 Wednesday evenings as you prepare for that. And we can't wait to welcome you as Timberwolves to our campus. So be well, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you.